Hello, fellow souls. You have now reached the channel of peace and gratitude. I am Anais Soul, and this is Living with Soul, where we discuss all things transformation from victim to victor, one thought at a time. Today, I just want to talk. I'm really in an era of figuring out my flow. I've been an entrepreneur or someone seeking to be an entrepreneur for quite some time. And honestly, it's the path that led me to this place of self development, personal development, and of spirituality. I recently discovered that my human design type is the generator, and that is describing someone who uh, will find most fulfillment following their thread of curiosity, following what lights them up. And so I've been trying to figure out what that looks like for me. And for the longest time, I'm someone who has a lot of ideas. It's very easy for me to get intrigued by a new project, by a new topic, and to explore it and dive right into it head first, maybe sometimes without asking all the questions that I need to be asking. I find or discover new things by exploration. And this has happened enough times for me to now recognize when something is more than a temporary interest. So, that being said, it's also important for me to find projects and interests that allow me to step into that state of flow, that allow me to find the next easiest thing and produce whatever output that I want to produce without much effort or thought. Now, it's still a very intentional process. It's still a very thought out way of doing things, but it allows me to get out of my head and get into the present moment. And I think it is a bit of a fine line. There's a balance, because we always have the opportunity with whatever it is that we're doing or facing to come into the present moment. And yet sometimes, we can fall into traps of overcomplicating projects or interests by thinking too much about the small details, getting lost in the small details. So, yeah, lately I've really just been thinking about, what is my structure? What is the setup that makes the most sense for me? And I'm just taking it one step at a time. Right now, it's definitely just speaking up about my life, about the themes that are going on, and the lessons from my spiritual knowledge that I can draw from and pull from that help me in my everyday. So, yeah, that's basically my beginner framework, currently at least, for projects, for interests that are along the entrepreneurial path. Another thing that I've been really focused on, that I've been really thinking about, is how to live a life that is passion driven, that is fueled by joy. This is something my younger self was super focused on and maybe even hyper focused on. Sometimes this pursuit can lead to some stagnation, which is a topic that I cannot wait to dive into with you all. And other times, it's the North Star that our soul is looking for so that we can set out to achieve the mission that we're supposed to achieve in this lifetime. And it's been really eye-opening for me because we're living in this time where there's so much uncertainty, there's so much chaos. I've still been able to feel happy, to predominantly choose which frequency which mode of life, of vibration I want to be in. And it's such a contrast from others in my life. So, for instance, I have basically um, eschewed or ignored, let's say ignored, the traditional path of life that most people are following, that most people have followed. And for me, that was basically the start of my awakening. I began questioning after my post secondary education, I began questioning, you know, the merit or the fruit of finding a career and settling into that career for the next 40, 50 years, retiring after a lifetime of work. It didn't make sense to me. It was something that I didn't quite understand and didn't quite find joy in. And yet, that was so difficult for people around me, my family, my friends, to understand. It was often met with that sense of, well, everyone else is doing this. This is what you have to do. So just get on board, okay? And, that works. But it didn't work for me. So I found a new path. I basically just forged right on into discovering, what was making me suffer, into diving into what pain that I carried, which is how I came through the other side to rediscover my joy. And so through this path, I've really, enjoyed learning from so many different guides that have taught me how to choose happiness, how to create happiness. My dad, actually, he always says some people don't know how to be happy. And I know for myself, I definitely did not know how to be happy. I definitely did not know that happiness was an inside job. And so now at this point, where the world seems to be in a state of fluctuation, all of the tools that I have honed and developed and discovered through the past few years are now coming into play so that even when there is sorrow, I can tap into my inner joy and choose and reflect that instead to the world, which I think ultimately is what all of us want to do. I've been reading and watching a lot of reaction videos on current world events, on, you know, reactions about conflicts and wars going on in the world. Haven't been reading so much about the events themselves because what you feed your mind is what will continue to grow. And I am hi. I am a very big proponent of that, and that's why I try to focus my mind on things that allow for my empowerment as opposed to my disempowerment. And so I've been watching these reaction videos and I'm seeing how frustrated and upset people are at the injustice of the world, and that's understandable, of course. But in however, I find that my role is one of a community of like-minded souls who are here to expand the universe, who aren't here to pull the energy further downwards, but to bring truth and light into the predominant focus. And with that comes the knowing that when you are a messenger of peace, your responsibility, your joy, is to infuse that into every interaction, is to focus on that higher frequency so that you can share that, so that you can inspire or encourage and provide service to people who need it. Anyways, that's what I have for you today. I have someone who's patiently waiting. Who knows what he wants to say, but this is such another example of what it can look like when you are just doing your thing, when you are following your joy, how people will get curious and maybe even follow their own joy as a result of you doing that. Thank you so much for watching. We will talk very soon. Om Shanti.